Millions of people travel to Mecca every year. They move in a massive, continuous wave around the Kaaba, the cube-shaped structure at the center of the Great Mosque. If you look closely at the eastern corner, you'll find the exact point where all this energy converges. People are reaching out, trying to touch a heavy silver casing. Inside that frame is the black stone, or hajr aswd. But despite the name, it is actually a cluster of 7 or 8 tiny fragments held together in a dark resin. Islamic tradition holds that this object descended from paradise to the earth. The texts describe it arriving in a state of purity, whiter than milk. Centuries of human contact left their mark. Religious accounts explain that as the stone absorbed the sins of mankind, the once white surface darkened until it became pitch black. Today, the shattered surface we see is a record of human history. This stone has been physically broken apart by centuries of extreme violence, ruthless political sieges, and outright theft. In the late 6th century, the stone was a single intact block inside the Kaaba's wall. The tribes of Mecca respected the sanctuary, but they were deeply divided by bitter rivalries. When a flood damaged the Kaaba, those rivalries nearly sparked a war over who would have the honor of putting the stone back. A young Muhammad resolved the crisis. He placed the stone on a cloak, asked the tribal leaders to lift the corners together, and then he set it into the wall himself. That unity did not hold. By the year 683, the Islamic Empire was fractured. A rebel leader named Abdallah ibn Zubair took refuge in Mecca, refusing to submit to the Umayyad Caliph's army advancing from Damascus. The Umayyad forces surrounded the city and launched a brutal assault. They fired massive, heavy catapults over the hills, striking the Kaaba directly and setting its covering on fire. The intense heat from the flames, combined with the crushing impact of the projectiles, physically shattered the black stone. It cracked into 3 separate pieces. An artifact that had once brought warring tribes together was now severely damaged by an empire fighting for political control of the Muslim world. The most devastating damage came 2.5 centuries later, in 930 AD. A radical sect known as the Karmatians, led by a warlord named Abu Tahir, invaded Mecca with the goal of destroying the Hajj pilgrimage forever. His forces killed an estimated 30,000 pilgrims in the streets. They dumped the bodies of the dead directly into the sacred Zamzam well, completely choking off the water supply. Before leaving, Abu Tahir ordered his men to tear the black stone out of the Kaaba's wall. They strapped the broken pieces to a camel and hauled them across the desert to their stronghold in modern-day Bahrain. For the next 22 years, the eastern corner of the Kaaba sat empty. Pilgrims arriving in Mecca could only circle the sanctuary and place their hands on the void where the relic used to be. The Karmatians finally returned the stone in 952 AD for a massive ransom. By the time it arrived back in Mecca, it had been degraded even further into the small shards we see today. Historical texts record that a prominent scholar, Sheikh Abdallah, tested the returned fragments to prove they were genuine. According to the lore, he verified that the true stone would float in water and remain cool even when exposed to fire. After tens of thousands of deaths and 2 decades in exile, the stone was cemented back into the wall. No army or cult had managed to permanently remove it from its home. To protect the surviving pieces, later rulers bound them with silver wire and sealed them inside a mixture of wax and musk. That is the dark resin pilgrims reach for today. Over the centuries, small fragments chipped off during repairs. Some of these tiny splinters were relocated to other parts of the Islamic world, like the Sokolu Mehmet Pasha Mosque in Istanbul, where they remain built into the walls. Despite the intense reverence for the stone, Islamic doctrine is clear about its physical nature. The second caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, famously kissed it and declared, "I know you are only a stone that can neither benefit nor harm." Its value lies in a specific theological promise. Prophetic tradition states that on the Day of Judgment, Allah will grant the stone 2 eyes to see and a tongue to speak. It will serve as an ultimate witness, testifying on behalf of every person who touched it with sincere faith throughout history. The fractured shards held in that silver frame are evidence of survival. They stand as the physical proof of an unbroken chain of belief that has outlasted the warlords, empires, and catacults that tried to destroy it.